Right. A brand new, oops, to the wrong. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the brand new episode of the Satisfied God podcast. My name is Rabon Byrd. I appreciate you tuning in. Let me just say before I get started in the lesson how much I appreciate you guys being a part of these lessons. And I know they've been kind of not as consistent as they have been. I'm working on that. I appreciate your patience in that. One of the things that I may do is back up a little bit, not do it every week for a little while, because I want to take the time to finish up the last couple of chapters and all of the edits that I need to do in the book, so that it can come out relatively soon. And so that's one of the reasons I'm trying to work on all that stuff too. And um, I give my attention and give my time to these things because to me they're important. It's the same with these lessons. I don't just want to get up on in front of a camera or in front of a microphone and perform and do a class because it's time. I want to be able to share something with you that is significant, and it may just be significant to me, and I share it with you. But I think it's significant in the reality of salvation. I think it's a truth that we need to ponder before the Lord and allow Him to um, open the eyes of our heart to see uh, who Christ is and that which He has been made unto us, so that we can live in accordance to a work that God has wrought. Not that we'd be people empty trying to get full, but people full trying to comprehend the fullness that we have been given by God. And I trust that that's your desire as you watch these podcasts, because if it's not, these podcasts are really not going to do you any good. I I know with the people that I deal with and speak to that your heart is set to know Christ. You don't just want to have a teaching or a doctrinal uh, confirmation. I'm not here to confirm your doctrines. I'm not here to confirm my doctrine. In fact, that's a lot of times I'm in here struggling with my long held beliefs and theological ideologies, and I'm having to wrestle. And the Lord appears, He shows Himself, and then the wrestle's over. And I submit. I have to. We all do submit to the truth as the truth is in Christ, not as I believed it for all my life. So these are things we're learning together, and we are in this podcast speaking to those that we know are learning along with us, along with me. You're learning just like I am, and I'm trusting that this would be a platform, a place where we can grow together in the comprehension of Christ, who is our life, and have fellowship in that fellowship that God is in each of us. And so tonight, that's what I want to address and I want to talk about is this fellowship that we have come to as his, as the body of Christ. You'll also forgive me if I have a little lingering cough from the whatever it was that I had. I try to keep that down to a minimum. So let's turn to Ephesians chapter 4. Okay. Ephesians chapter 4, we'll start in verse 4. There is one body and one spirit, even as you are called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. But unto every one of us is given grace according to the measure of the gift of Christ. Wherefore he saith, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. We'll stop there. We may proceed a little further, but maybe we won't get this far. One body, one spirit. And we've looked at the perspective of God that determines his relation and his relation to the body and the body's relation to him and the body's relation to one another. We've seen that judgment in the high priest. We have seen the judgment in the rod of Aaron that budded and was returned back into the holiest of all. And that was the only one returned back into the holiest to stand or to abide in the sight and presence of God as a memorial, as a monument to God's universal perspective regarding his people. There is one to whom he looks and sees the fruit. As you will recall, the rod of Aaron, that was an almond branch, budded and blossomed and bore fruit, ripe fruit, not just fruit, but ripe fruit. That is his son. That is the fruitful one. And we who are found in him are partakers of such great eternal substance. We are not the fruit bearers. We are joined to the vine, who is the source of all fruit. And it is an automatic reality because the Father's view does not deviate from the branch to whom he looks to see the fruitful manifestation that pleases his heart. But we are in that one. We are joined to him. Each and every one of us are found in him. And that is the perspective that God not only has of us, but reveals in us. It is a perspective God makes known in the soul of those who are his to simplify salvation. Men will complicate salvation. I've been very guilty of complicating salvation. And how do you do that? You bring anything but one into view. You bring anything other than Christ, our life, Christ, our righteousness, into view. You make your efforts, you make your dispositions, you make your lifestyle, you make any of these things the evidence and proof of either the legitimacy or illegitimacy of your standing before God. And you've complicated the whole thing. God has set one in his midst in whom he finds his satisfaction and to whom he is gifted and who he is gifted to the soul and in whom we find our acceptance before God. Again, as I've said a million times, we are accepted in the beloved, not made acceptable in the beloved. That's the mindset of Christianity as it is today in today's world. That's the mind of religion. We have to become acceptable because God looks at us and expects from us a particular thing. And therefore, as he looks at us, our standing before him, our relation to him is determined by what he sees of us. But God's judgment in his house, God's judgment in his body, is that we are known in one. We are accepted in one. And the perspective of God that he would show to us if we would just set our heart to know, even as we are known, he would show us that one, that we could rest in the assurance of an eternal, everlasting fellowship that we cannot mess up. because it is out of our hands. It is not defined in us. And again, that's not just individually, that's true of the whole of the body, every member of the whole of that body. But it's true of the corporate whole of the body. We can use that term without going crazy with it. That's how God beholds the entirety of a nation, a creation, a church, a kingdom. One defines the whole. The work of God, the work of the Spirit of truth, is to show us the one so that we can rest in the assurance of his sufficiency in the midst of us and not attempt at all times to remedy our insufficiencies that we see in ourselves and one another. And that is why we are, as his body, to live in the comprehension of the head, and in so doing, understand that each one of us stands dependent upon the sufficiency of another and not in ourselves. Therefore, when we're dealing with one another in view of reality of salvation, we can deal with one another knowing that none of us stand sure in ourselves, that we're all dependent upon this work of mercy that God has enacted and has bestowed. And therefore, when we look at one another and see the things we see, we understand there is an anchor that is unseen that holds us in place, and we can deal with one another in long suffering, in mercy, and in meekness. Because we all stand upon the sureness of the one and same ground, and have all been gifted the one and same life. Now, as we're talking about the body, I want to, because now he kind of doesn't change purposes of the letter, but he does begin now to deal with the captivity, leading captivity captive, and the grace that has been given to us according to the measure of Christ. And let's not make the mistake, and I don't want to linger upon people that make mistakes in these verses, but people would say that this is talking about now the gifts of the Spirit, and saying that some have a measure above another. Some have this gifting that's greater than another gifting, and all of that. No, that's not at all what this is about. Now, that can be what it's about in our mind when we put so much emphasis on the gifts and not the God. When we put it on the endowments and the endowment, or how, I guess, being endued with a power from God or whatever, instead of the God who has bestowed and who is the actual performer of ministry in his body. He uses whoever he will, and we'll read that in a moment, but he is the one that does it. But I want us to see this work of God in the body. I want us to understand not only the function of true ministry, but the purpose of true ministry. We may not get very far in this, but I want us to talk about it because, again, these are things I've struggled with. These are things being, and I'm not demeaning that, but being all my life in either Pentecostal or charismatic uh, leaning circles, I've had to wrestle with a lot of things that I was taught. And this fivefold ministry being one of those things. What does that mean? And I don't want to really focus a lot on it, because to me, we lose sight of truth when we focus on these things, because fivefold ministry was used so often to give men a platform, and an exalted one at that, so that they could be higher than the rest. And we could look at them with awe and rely upon them for hearing the voice of God or receiving from God. Well, that's not really how a body and a head works at all, is it? But God does use members to minister to members of the body, but the source is the same. But that's the thing we have to comprehend. The source being the same eliminates the one through whom and in whom God is working to edify or to work or minister to another member. It takes away the ground of boasting for that member because you're not the source of the function that is taking place. You're not the source. God has not given you an office as this or that. He has given you the mercy that he would work in you to be an encouragement or a ministry to another part of his body. He hasn't picked you or chosen you because you have a gift. He has provided you by his grace the gift that he is. So that as he wills, whenever he wills, he could use you to minister to his body as he will, in whatever capacity is necessary. Why? Because it is the sovereign rule of a head in a body. It is not a member now called to an office. It is the head functioning in the body according to the need. Now, so let's turn, and this is gonna, because a lot of people don't look at the giftings, and we're going to talk about the leading captivity captive because this is part of it. This is part of the whole uh, working of ministry and the giving gifts unto men. This is part of it. But let's start in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Um, of course, we're all familiar with 1 Corinthians chapter 12 being where he begins to speak of the things of the Spirit. Now, I don't have that in my notes, so let me just turn to the very beginning of that chapter. And read. Now, concerning spiritual gifts, now the word gifts is in italics here, so it's not actually there. So it is actually now concerning spiritual, now concerning that which is spiritual. Brethren, I would not have you ignorant. You know that you were Gentiles, carried away unto these dumb idols, even as you were led. Wherefore I give you to understand that no man speaks by the Spirit of God, speaking by the Spirit, calls Jesus accursed, and that no man can say that Jesus is Lord except by the Holy Ghost. Now, I'm going to go to this in a moment, but I want to first talk about, we'll go to verse 4 in a minute, but I want to jump down to verse 12 because he's going to define the body. This is what we're addressing in Ephesians chapter 4. And he's already in Ephesians chapter 4 helped us with the simplicity of the matter and the singleness of the matter by continually reiterating in different ways, but continue reiterating the same theme. There is one body, one spirit, one Lord, one faith, one baptism. We'll get to that too, with the one faith, one baptism, one Lord. Again, we've talked about that being the sovereignty of one and the rule of one and the determination in one with regard to the whole. That's the lordship. There's a sovereignty to this that we lose sight of so often because we think we determine something. You never determine a thing when you're under the rule of a sovereign. The sovereignty of the one determines everything. That's what it means to be under a king, to be in a kingdom. Okay. So verse 12 of 1 Corinthians 12, For as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ. For by one Spirit, now listen to this, and let's take this back to the one baptism, because this is what we're talking about. For by one Spirit are we all baptized into one body. There's the one baptism. It's the baptism whereby we have been baptized into one body, whether we be Jews or Gentiles, whether we be bond or free, and have been all made to drink. Listen to that. Made to drink into one Spirit. For the body is not one member, but many, yet it is one body. Okay, I added that little last part. We have to understand that. This is that baptism. This is the baptism Peter talks about, the baptism that brings us all not to the washing of the dirt of filth off of our bodies with water, but the true baptism that brings us into the conscience and the consciousness of a new creation, whereby we stand before God in the reality of the resurrection, that meaning Christ being now our life and our, whether Jew or Gentile, being filled with the one life, again, Ezekiel 37, that brings us from death unto life, living by the one Spirit who has entered into us. There's the baptism. Baptized into him, as they were baptized into Moses, right? There is one identifying the whole through this baptism. And Peter would say that it's the baptism that brings a good conscience before God by the resurrection. Why? Old things have passed away. The new has come. It is now standing before God, knowing that in him you are accepted, and in him you are holy and without blame before him in love. But it's baptism of the Spirit that brings us into Christ and makes us his body. Joins us to the head, whereby the head determines the entire thing and provides as the source of all spiritual blessing. So none of this is about many. None of this. Ministry is not about many. It's not about one. It's not about this. It's about the one Spirit working in the many for one purpose, out from one source, according to one finished work and a victory God has wrought in the head himself. We'll talk about that because that has to do with him ascending on high, leading captivity captive. So, using the human body as a reference point, Paul shows here that many parts and members do not define the body at all. The body is one having many members. So immediately in that phrase, he shows where the significance actually rests. Basically, having many members sets that aside as an irrelevant point where the one, the body is one, is the point. But he doesn't deny there's many members, but he denies that the many members constitutes the body. The one in the body constitutes the body. The one who makes it one, not the many. Okay? This is stated specifically when he identifies the body, who is Christ. The whole is identified by the head. That doesn't mean you become Christ. A lot of people would read that and say, oh, the body is Christ, so that means I'm Christ. No, that means in God's perspective, the whole of the body, yes, being many members, but the whole of that one body is defined by Christ. There's the unity of Psalms 133, right? The anointing is first upon the head because there's the identity of the whole. It flows down from the head to the rest. But the one anointed by God, he doesn't pour it on the chest, he pours it on the head. And the rest partake of an anointing that is poured upon one. So here's the internal measure of the body. And while we look at the many and are prone to judge member against member, God has fortified every ground of judgment and boasting, or not fortified, but forfeited. I'm sorry, I can't read. God has forfeited every ground of judgment and every means of boasting by the provision of one life and one spirit to the many. There is that thing that threads us and knits us together as one. The sovereign rule, the sovereign administration of God taking place in that body, it overrides the many to minister to the many in accordance to the singular measure of the gift of grace that God has administered to us. Meaning, our ministry must be in accordance to the singleness, not the many. True ministry of the body, true ministry in the body, is to bring us to a full God-given cognizance of the one, not the many, or attempting to make the many like the one. No, it's to bring us to the knowledge of what? A perfect man, a man who is complete and who is the completeness of the whole. That's the work of ministry. We'll see that in Ephesians 4. We're so busy telling the many how to live like the one, we have lost sight of the one who lives in the many. But true ministry turns your heart to the same one God beholds and will make him known in you. He's not here to instruct you how to live the Christian life. He is here to reveal in you the Christian life he has provided in all of its perfection, all of its completeness. That's his work. So that we all having the same thing would all come to the comprehension of the same one we have. The single life that unites every member is what must determine the body. Because if the members in particular, he will say, define any aspect of it, then we'll compare ourselves with one another and function like we are many. We will compare our functions, we'll compare our ministries and the levels and the degrees. And we'll try to boast in our function in that body over against another's function in that body, losing sight or never having sight of the fact that it's not your function in the body, it is his function in you in accordance to his sovereignty. You're not the source of this. None of us are. And you'll notice that Paul prefaces this, what we just read, in verse 12 of 1 Corinthians 12 by saying this, to another, this is verse 10, to another the working of miracles. I'll tell you what, I'm going to read starting in verse 4. Yeah. Yeah. There are diversities of gifts. Listen to this. This is important. Let's not lose sight of the point that he's making. There are diversities of gifts. Boy, we love that part. But it's the same Spirit. And the word same in the Greek can actually be one, but one, the one Spirit. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. See, one Lord, one Spirit. He's getting all of this. And there are diversities of operations, but it's the same God which worketh all in all. Does that sound familiar? God and Father who is through all, in you all. That's the reality of the head of the body who is all in all. This is what he's talking about. It's the same God that works all in all. Verse did I? Okay, let me just keep going. But the same Lord, diversities of operations, but it's the same God that works all in all. And even my Bible gives me a reference at the end of that verse. It's Ephesians 1:23. That's the Christ, the head, who fills all, the one who fills all in all, the body. But the manifestation of the Spirit, listen to that. These are not gifts of men manifesting itself in the body. This is the manifestation of the Spirit. Why? Because it's one Lord and one Spirit that's doing all of this. The manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit the whole. All of it. It's for the profit of the whole. For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit. For another faith, or to another faith by the same Spirit. To another the gifts of healing by the same Spirit. Notice who's doing this and who's the source of all of this ministry and activity and administration and operation and function. He's not lauding the foot or the knee. He's lauding the one who abides in the foot to minister to something, or the knee to minister to something, or the hand to minister to something. It's all by one Spirit. Here's your source. Here's the true function and ministry is the one ministering to the whole as he wills through whatever vessel and part he will. What does that do? It leaves no ground of boasting for any member. Therefore, as he said in chapter 4, we can live according to the calling wherewith you're called, not trying to boast in some separate calling we think we have, but the calling to be his body. We can walk in accordance to it with one another in lowliness, in meekness, and in long suffering, knowing that we all derive everything from the one source. But all these worketh that one and selfsame Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he wills. So all the diversities that God has divided as far as ministry or whatever that's taking place, again, is not to give you an official office that you can boast in, but is God working in every part and dividing to every part as he wills for ministry to his body. For as the body is one and has many members, we've read that, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ. So the ministry of that one body, in that one body, is the one Spirit, and is through and by the one Spirit. Through you all. Remember, he said, in you all, God, through you all, God working in you all. And that, again, that's not through us to an awaiting world to see the manifestations that we will bring about. That is to every part, to every member, ministering and edifying, as he says, each ligament manifesting and ministering to one another, right? By bands and ligaments. And this is vital when seeing the parallel between these two portions of scriptures. And you have to understand how Paul looks at the body and how he looks at the ministry, even his, of and in that body. He keeps bringing it back to the source, being singular, not many. the diversity of ministrations and operations, but the same one working in every part. Notice the source of the ministry and the activity is the one, not the many. We get so caught up in the many. We get so caught up in the callings that we believe we have, in the functions that we think we possess, and we get so caught up and get so exalted and egotistical and arrogant. And all of a sudden we begin to think we're the source instead of a vessel, a fragile earthen vessel upon which God has graced and given mercy, that he would use that vessel to minister to another part of his body at all. The function belongs to him. The ministry is his. The work is his. So nothing is up to or just a whim of any member of that body and says, I think I'll be this. I think I'll do this. I feel led or I feel this. It is the life of that body ministering through whatever part of that body he desires, as he wills, as it is deemed necessary, and it is edifying to a greater comprehension of the head. That's the purpose, to edify the body to a greater and point them to the one who's in them, who can make known to them the true source and make them aware of the head who fills the body with the fullness of himself. That's the work of the ministry. He divides to every man individually as he wills, but what works in every member individually is the ministry of the one Lord and one Spirit. Again, we focus so often, again, my history as a charismatic Pentecostal person, we seem to focus so much on the enumerated manifold manifestation. Which one do you have? And then, the issue here is not to finally check off the number of these particular giftings that we think we have or can claim as operative in us. I've heard that. We are told to desire the best gifts. Oh, brother, see, there's best gifts. Okay. But this is not, the way he words this in the Greek is not so he can say, now, here's what I want. I want you to all look for the best one and desire that best one. That's not the point. Let me show you what he says. This is 1 Corinthians 12, verse 28. God has appointed in the church first apostles, and we're going to talk about that in Ephesians 4. He's going to say the same stuff. He doesn't use it. See, all of these things are not enumerated exact in every place because he realizes these functions of God in the body are manifold. So to call this the fivefold ministry, what about the other ministries of the one Spirit in the body? How many folds are there, right? But we like that because it sounds good. I mean, we can call it hand ministry because there's 5 of them, and we can say that's the hand of God and function. Okay. All right. God has appointed in the church first apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then miracles, then gifts of healing, helping, administration, various kinds of tongues. Are all apostles? Now, this is important. As he asks these questions, in the Greek, there is a portion of each of these questions that necessitate the answer to these questions be negative. So when he asks the question, it is already in the question in the Greek, knowing that the answer is no. That's why he can ask it and not really answer it, because they would know the answer to this is no because of the way it's said or written. Are all apostles? Again, no. Are all prophets? No. Are all teachers? No. Do all work miracles? No. Do all possess gifts of healing? No. Do all speak with tongues? No. Do all interpret? No. Do you hear these words? And there's the fallacy of people saying, I can teach you how to do this gift. This is running rampant in charismania today, in charismatic churches today. I can teach you how to be a prophet. I can teach you how to be this. I can teach you how to do miracles. I can teach you to have enough faith. I can teach you this and that, blah, blah, blah. Are all prophets? Can they be? No. But earnestly, and this is a weird place for him to say this if he's saying, but I want you to get the best gift, because he's just said not everybody has this. So if you're desiring to be a prophet, is everybody a prophet? Can that be something you have if it's not meant for you? See the way we do it, if we're looking at it the way we look at it and how confusing that is? When we make it something God gives to us as an office instead of a function of God, whenever, however, at whatever time, within whoever. Earnestly desire the highest gifts. Yet, listen to this part, because this is the answer to that. I will show you a still more excellent way. Wow. We could consider that forever, right? Desire the best thing. Whatever gift you see to be the best, whatever you see as the highest gift given, desire it, long for it. But I'm about to show you something greater than that highest and greatest gift. What are you after? What are you after? That's what he's going to show them. What should their hearts be after? What should their hearts be longing for? What should their attention be set toward? The giftings? Because here's the whole point. These are not yours. They had taken these things to themselves and began to do it and abuse it and work in it just like we have today. And he's not correcting them how to function. He's showing them whose function it is and why them trying to take it to themselves and make them the source of the function is stupid. And then he's going to go a little step further and show them even the more excellent thing. I'm going to show you the more excellent. And yet, this is from Robert Hawker's commentary. Yet, says Paul, show I unto you a more excellent way, namely Christ himself. Reader, what are all the gifts? What are all the graces compared to the person of Christ? This is his commentary, and I want to ask us this too. This was great. Gifts, yeah, Christ's gifts are not Christ. The functions of Christ are not the things we should desire. The person of Christ is. When Jesus comes to visit a soul, he does indeed bring his gifts with him, as some great prince, when he travels, is attended by his servants. But who would lose sight of the prince to merely look at the servants? Who would bestow their time at court in beholding the king's equipage or valuables instead of beholding the king himself in his beauty? That's quite a question, isn't it? John Gill says basically this, which may be rendered either indicatively as an assertion, you do covet earnestly the best gifts of prophesying and teaching and doing miracles, healing diseases, and speaking with and interpreting different tongues and languages. But I can and do show you something that is even better and more excellent than these. But he says this can also be said in way of interrogation. Do you covet earnestly the best gifts? Do you zealously affect them, fervently desire them, to emulate one another in your endeavors after them? I have something to observe to you which exceeds them all, and which you would do well to follow after and eagerly pursue. What is it? What's the better thing than the gifts? What is the greater thing than the ministry in the body? It's the life and nature and person who feels that body. The accessory, as valuable as it is, can't compare with the absolute presence of the person, of the person who is the giver and performer and worker and manifestation of all things. Here it is. Love never fails. This is verse 8. We'll read some more possibly in chapter 13. But here's the more excellent thing. Though I speak with the tongues of men, verse 1 of chapter 13, and of angels, have not love. King James says charity, but it's agape, it's love. I am become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal, just a loud clanking noise. Though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and have all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I could remove mountains and have no love, I am nothing. Why? To lose sight of the source, the person, in exchange for a function makes you ineffectual. Because the only effectual thing is the life and nature that functions in his body. That's the source of all ministry. If it's not ministry, whatever it may be. As great and as impressive as it may look, nothing at all. I mean, he's saying some impressive things right here. Knowing all mysteries, speaking with the tongues of angels, a lot of impressive things, sounding brass. I am nothing, though I could move a mountain. And if I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profits me nothing. It's irrelevant. Why? I'm going to read this from another translation. Love meekly and patiently bears ill treatment from others. Love is kind, gentle, benign, pervading and penetrating the whole nature, mellowing all which would have been harsh and austere. It is not envious. It does not brag, nor does it show itself off. It is not ostentatious. It does not have an inflated ego. What does that mean exactly? That means it's nothing sourced in us. It has no natural origin. It is not of us. It is of God and God alone. See, that's the thing. Love cannot be truly faked. The nature behind the whole thing cannot be faked. The thing, the function, can be. Where should our attention be set? On our desire to function in the body or be used in the body, or the head who is the source of all things to the body, so that that would be the one out from whom we live and move and have our being, and in the light of whose sufficiency we walk humbly, knowing our dependence upon him and knowing that none of this is ours. None of it is determined by us. Love does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek after the things that are its own. It is not irritated, provoked, exasperated, aroused to anger. It does not take into account the evil, does not rejoice at the iniquity, but rejoices with the truth, and endures all things, believes all things, hopes all things, bears up under all things, not losing heart nor courage. Love never fails. There's the unchanging, unfailing life and nature of the person of Christ in us that fills the body with the fullness of himself. This is not about a humanly defined emotion we have. That's not what love is. Love is the person of Christ himself. That's why we can stand holy and without blame before God in love. That is why we are accepted in the beloved. None of this is of natural character and origin. And you have to, in the reading of all this, I mean, you see it everywhere. You see it on these, you know, inspirational pictures or whatever people have in their halls and on their walls. And they have 1 Corinthians 13 about love, and yet they think it's something they can do, and they're trying to get God to help them do that and love that way. You can't. This is not human. This is not natural. This is other than you. This is a nature that is above you. That's the whole point. The source of ministry to his body is that which is greater than the body, but what God in his mercy has filled the body with. That's the person of the head. Love never fails. Love never falters. It doesn't cease in efficacy and effectiveness. Do not set your heart, here's the point, do not set your desire and pursue the things that can be exhibited and cease in exhibition. They can come and go. They can fail. They can be wrong. Why? Because this is a function you think you have. But the nature of God cannot fail. The true function of the Spirit in his body, whatever ministry it may be, doesn't fail because it worketh by love. If it's my function, it can fail. And it will. And the things that led up to this completeness, this perfection of the person and the nature ceases. He says that on further, and we won't get into that. It ceases. Tongues, prophecy, cease. Why? Because the perfect, the complete, that's the love, the person, the perfect, the love that was behind all of the things previous to his appearing has come. Therefore, they cease. So don't set your hearts upon the things that can be exhibited and cease in their exhibition, but pursue wholly the love that binds us in an unseen but everlasting and effectual way. When does this happen? When do we understand the complete that has come and has comprehend the way in which we have been known of God? When we see the perfect, when we see the love of God in the face of Jesus Christ, not when we get our love in order and love people more. No. When we see and seek singularly the one Spirit at work in every part and do not seek the expressions in the parts. That's the reality we are to be after. To seek the singularity of the one who is at work in every part and not seek the manifestation or function in the parts. Not only us, but anybody else. I mean, the Corinthians, according to the letter, you see it, it put undue preeminence on the possessing and workings of these giftings. So Paul does a couple of things here in this chapter. First, he demonstrates that they are not the source of any of those spirit manifestations. It is the Spirit, the one Spirit. So he removes their belief in each one having a standing, a higher standing because they have a greater gift or whatever in the body. Paul declares that the person and nature of God, who is love, is the source of all things. Why? Because love doesn't brag. Love won't exalt itself. It's not ostentatious, and it does not have an inflated ego. And you may think we don't. We do. We do. The moment you try to prove yourself to God is an ego trying to prove something that is incapable of being proven. God has proven to himself and given to himself and provided to himself what he desires. He has gifted it to us in the incredible and everlasting act of his mercy. And we can desire these manifestations to happen, these functions, and they're necessary in the body, no doubt. But we can do all of that and not live in view of or in full dependence upon the God whose manifestations there are. They are, and we can, in so doing, brag and have a huge ego because we think those manifestations or fall under the false assumption that they are somehow attributed to me or my level of spirituality. Yet God spoke through a donkey and a rooster. The God who is love is much more necessary and much more effectual and is the only true source of any function. It is faith which works by love. Everything of God works in accordance to the love that he is. Unto every one of us, this is what the true meaning of Paul's words, unto every one of us is given grace according to the measure of the gift of Christ. The grace according to the measure of the gift of him who abides in us. That's reality. That's the truth of our fellowship, our ministry, whatever it may be. That's the truth of it. So I'm going to stop there in this lesson. I want you to ponder those things. And this doesn't divert us from the thing. This brings us into what we're going to talk about. This is a God who has wrought all things, who has won the victory, who has conquered all things, who has destroyed every enemy, reigning in his body, giving first the body being the spoils of that reign. We'll see that in that victory, and him gifting the fullness of a well won, eternally wrought victory in his body, so that we who are his body, by ministry, by the work of the Spirit and ministry of God in that body, would come to the true comprehension of the one perfect man who feels it, so that we're no longer assessing Jew or Gentile, male or female, giftings or whatever, manifestations. But we will come to know in the face of the head the true condition of the body, and rejoice in such sufficiency, wrought of God and not by ourselves, secured and effectual, everlastingly effectual, never changing, in the priesthood of the head and not ourselves. So we'll stop there, guys. Thank you for your time. and your patience to listen to this. If you want to follow this page on YouTube or any of the podcasts, please follow or subscribe to it. Also, I would encourage you to, if you subscribe to it, to also hit the notification bell there so you'll be notified anytime we do a lesson or class. We have the live classes that are coming every every other Monday night. I haven't heard from anybody from the last Monday lesson as far as a date or time. So here's what we're going to do. Hopefully you listen to the end of this. The live session will be on the 31st of March. So it'll be at 6 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That'll be 7 Eastern Time. And the rest you can figure out. But that'll be the 31st, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time, on YouTube, on the Satisfied God podcast YouTube channel that this video right now is on. So if you're listening to the audio podcast, please come over and listen to the YouTube. You can watch the video. This is also videoed now. And so, again, come, you can see my beautiful face and be a part of that. And again, if you haven't been on the live classes every Monday night, please do that. Again, the 31st of March will be our next one at 6 o'clock. It's always an enjoyable time, and I trust you will be blessed by it. And the teaching, we're in Hebrews and teaching through the book to the through the letter to the Hebrews. And so come be a part of that. And thank you, everyone who is giving financially and helping us do this. It's very necessary and very appreciated. I love you very much, and I appreciate your support in every way you do it, reaching out, encouraging words, financially, however you do it. It's just, I don't do this for my health. I do this to help the body of Christ turn to see Jesus and to give you something of the truth of his sufficiency, to give the Spirit of God something to work with, to turn your heart and teach you as only he can. I'm not your teacher. I point you to the teacher for him to teach you the person and life that he has given you and that he is in you. So thank you so much, guys. Love you very much. Till next time. Amen.